And today, as you can see here, we're doing a little things differently. I'm going to be interviewing the mayor, Matt, of the town of Miami Lakes. And I'm going to ask him a few questions.
Wait, so they flipped it up on me, right? You guys, I showed up today and I'm like, hey, I'm ready to go. Who's the guest? Or like, oh, you're the guest today.
Yeah, you're the guest today.
Which I appreciate that. But I hear, not only are you going to ask questions, but I think the rest of your classmates, they're ready to ask some questions. And I think you guys got some of the questions from other students at Matter Lakes.
Yeah, we did.
Oh,
it's
man.
on behalf of everyone from
I don't know. Ariel, Albert, did I get into something here that what kind of questions are we expecting?
We think you're safe, but we'll see.
All right.
Okay, so we're gonna begin with how has your career as a mayor been since you've been elected?
How has my career been as a mayor since I've been? Listen, sometimes I don't believe it, right? So like I look around and I'm not supposed to be doing what I'm doing, right? I didn't come from a powerful family, didn't come from a wealthy family, right? And traditionally, you look at elected officials throughout our county, and a lot of people are wealthy, their families were well off, their uncle was a mayor, somebody was a councilman, and they kind of push them along the way. I was the other way around. I had nobody in my family had any political aspirations, and I remember when I first said, hey, you know what, I want to get into public service. I love giving back. I love the political process, and people were like, you're crazy, but why would you do that? You know, our family's never done that. And I could tell you there are days, even the day that I got elected was incredibly surreal, where I looked around and I was like, what? I'm mayor of a city of Miami Lakes, a great city in our community. So I could tell you it's been incredibly fulfilling, but more than anything, humbling, because there are still days that I wake up and it's hard to believe, right, that you're the mayor of a city of 35,000 people, right? So I can tell you I'm just humbled, and it's been an incredible journey. You learn a lot of things, right? We're used to in life when things are going well, everybody's happy, everybody's good, but there's been adversity throughout the process. And what's great about adversity is that you can see somebody's soul. So you get to see what people are really all about. So I can tell you I've learned a lot in the last 10 years. I got 2 years left, but in the last 10 years here on the council.
Wow, that's a long time. Okay, so we're going to move on to the second question, which is what major changes have you experienced in life since you became a mayor?
Oh, wow. When I first got elected, I was 28 years old, 29 years old, and my kids were really small, right? Manny was, this back in 2012, Manny was like 4 years old, 4 years old. Noah was 2 or 3, and fast forward now, you know, they're 14 and 12, and then I have a third 9-month-old at home. So moved to a new house, to another townhouse, and own a restaurant, have done different businesses here in the town. So it's been a lot of changes in my life. I've seen my family's very small, but I've seen my grandmother and my dad throughout that process have passed away, right? So it hurt, but at least, you know, they've been able to see that their sacrifices in life were worth it, right? Because myself and my sister, we've done well. But yeah, life has changed, but more than anything, you become better. And that's what I tell people all the time. I go, look, you can never stop improving. Some people make a mistake, and I remember in high school where people were like, oh, I'm the valedictorian of my class. That's the most important thing ever, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's awesome, but now what's next? How do you capitalize on that? How do you continue getting better? It's like, I know people that get a college degree, and they're like, this is it, I made it. I was like, no, you got
to keep going.
Yeah, you got to keep going, keep getting. Yeah. So that for me has been the biggest thing is continuing to get better, seeing my family progress and change, seeing things every day just get better, right? Never being stagnant.
Okay, so moving on to the next question, we have what has been your greatest achievement outside of being a mayor?
Oh, my family. Listen, that's as much as I love having a restaurant that people eat at and people love, and it's cool, and I've had other businesses, it's my family, right? And I think the COVID pandemic taught me and taught everybody a very important thing, was that the precious time that you have with your loved ones is more important than anything else. So there were times, I remember when I first got elected, that I would try to make every single event. So if I were at my kids' baseball game, I would leave the game early to go cut a ribbon. Now it's the other way around. And I'm like, listen, man, if you want me to cut a ribbon, you got to do that ribbon cutting after my kid's game. So that I could tell you that's how, life's changes. But my family is by far the biggest achievement ever. And I think that for all of us, right?
Yeah.
That's when you realize it, especially when you get older, you're like, oh, it's all about family. So
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, so
who's up next? Or you got more?
Yeah, we have more. We have
Oh.
a couple more people, about 4 more people. So we have coming up next. I'm gonna introduce you guys to Alejandro. So yeah, thank you for
Thank you.
having me.
Good job, Haley. Alejandro, welcome, man. Thanks for setting the tone. Thanks for opening it up.
Hey everyone, my name is Alejandro and Acosta, and I'm also a senior at Matter Lakes. Hi, Manny. How are you doing today?
Good, man. Good. It's a little nervous for me. Now I'm on the other side, right? It's easy. You know who when I realize when you change things up in life, what happens? When we had Enrique Santos here, I remember even him telling me, is like, man, I'm not used to this. I'm used to being the one asking the questions, the one being in charge, the one kind of like, guiding the path. But he even was like, this is kind of weird for him. Yeah. So for me, it is too. So yeah, but otherwise good.
Well, the first question that I have here is, what inspired you to become the mayor?
What inspired me to become mayor? So great question. When I was on the city council, I was a councilman. I ended up becoming the youngest vice mayor in the town. And the individual before me, there was a group of people. There was one individual in particular had gotten arrested. The FBI. There was a big issue here in our community, and I had a choice to make. I could have run for re-election as a council member and got in probably unopposed. Not too many people would have ran against me at that time, or take some risk, right? Run for mayor. And at that time, there were 3 people running for mayor. There was one person who was the founding mayor, one person that was a current mayor, and one was the interim mayor. And then you had me. When I jumped into the race, I was 20. When I ran for mayor, I was 32. And then I jumped in. So a lot of people were like, "Hey, you're not gonna win. This is crazy." But I said to myself, I go, "What's the point of serving if I don't just change the entire game, right? If I don't change the entire process in this town, what's the point of me just sitting up there? Is it a title? Is it just for me being a councilman, or is there a bigger purpose?" And that's when I said to myself, I go, I'm not going to sit on the city council and not be the mayor. Just sit there and allow somebody else who I believe, some of them were great people, but I believe that I could do a better job. So that's when I was like, look, we're going to take the risk. We're going to file. I'll never forget that morning when I came in to City Hall to file. I submitted my paperwork, and I was super nervous. I gave him my paperwork. And I remember even like the staff and people looking at me like, oh, this guy's crazy. And I remember my phone going off the hook. Some people like telling me off, like, hey, you shouldn't be running for mayor. Who do you think you are? Like, people were telling me that. Like, you don't understand. We're going to come after you. We're going to make sure you're going to lose. We're going to make up things about you. And I was like, listen, man, do what you got to do. I'm going to do what I got to do. You guys do it. But it was not 1, 2, 3. There were dozens of people that were telling me those things. And throughout the process, it was a little lonely. Like, I remember my first campaign event, not too many people showed up, but we kept working hard, and we ended up winning by the largest margin and raised the most money in town history. But you got to believe in yourself, right?
Yeah.
And but there are lonely moments throughout that process. I think I shared this before. When I first ran for city council, I had a fundraiser that not a human being showed up to. You know what? I put on a suit. I was ready to go, showed up to the fundraiser. Nobody showed up. Sucks, right? Like, as a human being, that's terrible. But I use that as gas in the tank, right? So
That's good. The second question that I have here for you is, who was your biggest inspiration as a child growing up?
Listen, my parents and my grandmother, right? So what they went through pales in comparison to what I will ever go through, and many of us will ever go through. So I'll never forget my grandmother built her house in Cuba. When Fidel Castro and his group of thugs and communist thugs took over, I remember her telling me the story that they knocked on her door and they're like, listen, this house no longer belongs to you. It belongs to the revolution. The apartment upstairs that you rent out, they no longer pay rent to you. They pay rent to the revolution. And that other apartment that's in the back that you own, doesn't belong to you anymore. And you see your kids, you see your daughter. We're going to force her into a work camp where she's going to have to go 6 months out of the year to go cut sugarcane and pick tobacco leaves, to do rum and to do Cuban cigars. And I'll never forget them sharing that with me and saying, look, they took everything from us, and them making the decision to leave with nothing, go to Spain for 3 years, not knowing anybody, living there, then coming over here. And day one, they started grinding. The first day that they arrived, they walked East Hialeah, and whichever warehouse was hiring, they started working that first day. And the same thing with my dad. My dad had to go to Costa Rica. My grandfather, who I never met, when they came here, they passed away. My dad lived by himself in a walk-in closet in Little Havana, to try to make ends meet. And so they definitely, by far, inspired me, because I'm like, listen, man, if my biggest worries back then were like, what am I going to eat for lunch? Not if I'm going to eat for lunch, but what is it? Is it a slice of pizza? Is it a chicken nugget or what? And I was like, if those are my main concerns growing up, and they provided, there was nothing that I was going to face in life that would ever rate to the scale of what they faced in Cuba.
Okay. The third question that I have here for you is, what was the hardest obstacle you came across in your life growing up?
In my life growing up, not in campaigns. So in my life growing up, I was a terrible student, right? So I failed the 6th grade, which was sucked. Think about it. You're in school with your friends, you're having fun, and they tell you at the end of the school year is like, hey, you're not going to the 7th grade with your friends. Like, what? No, you're staying back. Think about how embarrassing that is, right? Like, you show up to the first day of school, people are like, what's up, Manny? What's up, dude? I'm like, hey, what's up, man? Like, hey, we got class today. I was like, listen, bro, I don't got class. I got held back. And it was a difficult part of my life, but I'll never forget, my parents were always there. I remember they, instead of getting mad at me, they encouraged me. I remember they rented, I always wanted to sit in a convertible. They rented a Mustang convertible and drove me to the Keys one day and just talk to me, just tell me how much they loved me and how much I had to keep going forward. So fast forward, I had got kicked out of that school after I failed. I got kicked out of school. That was the second school I got kicked out of. I had gone to another school, ended up getting into fights early on, got kicked out again. They gave me a second chance, and I was playing basketball. I was a pretty good basketball player. Junior year comes in, I'm ready to roll, work the whole summer. I got a 1.5 GPA, got kicked off the team, wanted to give up. And so those hurdles for me, while a lot of people they might define them, I'm very open about it, because I hope, to inspire other kids one day. Because again, most people in my position don't go through things like that. Like, they are people that are wealthy or powerful, that things were given to them, or parents, protected them, or their dad was this, or their mom was that, or, so for me to make it to where I've made it today, even though I would like to go further, even having to face all those obstacles, and there were a lot more, but those were the main ones: failing a grade, getting kicked out 3 times, getting cut from the basketball team, all those things. Instead of using as a crutch, you use it as a way to motivate and inspire other people, right? So that's why I share it. A lot of people would hide that. I'm very transparent about it, because I think hopefully it could help out somebody someday along the line.
Okay, that's good. Well, now I'm going to introduce Matthew, and he's going to ask you 3 questions as well.
Good job, man. Good job. Welcome, Matthew.
Hello. Good afternoon. How have you been?
Good. Everything good. You ready?
Yeah, my name is Matthew. I attend Metal Lakes Academy, and I'm currently a senior. And I have a couple of questions that I would like to ask you, and a lot of other classmates would like to ask. So one of my first questions would be, what did it feel like growing up in Miami Lakes? Like, did you grow up in Miami Lakes, or was it a different part?
Then, so when I was born in Hialeah Hospital in 1983. Yeah. Actually, the doctor that helped deliver me, he was still practicing at Hialeah till about a year ago, and then they shut down the maternity ward. But I see him once in a while, because the guy that, talk about small world, the guy that owns the place next to my restaurant, his uncle is the doctor, so I see the doctor all the time. Lavado. Was born in Hialeah Hospital. First years of my life. We were in Carroll City.
Oh, yeah.
Lived there. We moved to Hialeah till I was about 8 years old. And then we moved to Miami Lakes. That was my parents' dream. My parents were like, man, you know, if we can move to Miami Lakes, move into this house, that'll be. So I'll never forget my mom making those sacrifices. But my dad worked a second job just to get enough money to get the down payment for the house. And for them, that was like their castle. I mean, you got to think about it. And I never understood it as a kid, why they cared so much about their house and why it was like so sacred. And now I know why. Now I know because of everything they went through in Cuba, right? When everything's taken away from you, what you gain here, that is like the most important thing. So even to today, my grandmother and my dad passed away, like I mentioned earlier, but my mom lives in the same house. And to her, that is like the most beautiful castle in the world. Like her house is. So, yeah, I grew up here in the town. I loved it. It was a different era, right? So I would go home every day, open up my garage, and I was gone. There were no cell phones, no social media. I was on the street the whole day, 7 days a week. That doesn't exist anymore. And I think that's something that I miss now that I see, because my kids don't do that. Everybody's scared now. People texting while driving, people just all the bad things you see on social media. So a lot of people are nervous, but I miss that so much because I grew up every day on the street, every day. No matter what, every single day. So that was one of the things I really enjoyed about growing up in Miami Lakes.
So speaking on like streets and stuff, like the outdoors, do you have any like big projects coming to Miami Lakes? Like anything that could like anything improving or any?
Yeah, look, one of the biggest ones is on the ballot right now, and there's going to be an election. The people are voting for it right now, and I think November 8th is election day. Is the Optimist Park, right? So if people, 50% of our residents, 50 plus one, vote yes, you're going to see for the first time in 50 years an incredible redevelopment of a park that'll include major walking trails with outside workout areas, an aeronasium, that means a roof over the basketball courts.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Yeah, the baseball fields will get revamped, the tennis courts, the pickleball courts, soccer, there's going to be soccer area, there's going to be flag football. The drainage issues are going to be taken out. There's going to be more parking. There's new lighting. I mean, just complete revamp, bringing our town to the level that it needs to be. Because that's the one thing we don't have as a community is top-notch parks. We have okay parks, but compared to cities that are on our level, right? When you talk about Weston, Doral, Pines, Miramar, and people compare them to Miami Lakes, we just don't. There was a resident that talked about it the other day. She moved out of Miami Lakes with her kids because she wanted to live in a city that had a bigger emphasis on outdoor activities. And unfortunately, historically we just haven't had that perspective here in our community. While we do the bare minimum, right? And we haven't taken it to the level that most cities have taken it to, not only in South Florida, but throughout our country.
All right.
So hopefully that changes in the next week or so.
Yeah, I agree. So for my next question, as a senior, and I'm about to graduate soon, do you have any advice to like any seniors, other high school students, or?
Listen, man, the main advice I could tell you, and I learned this. I'm a big Denzel Washington fan, right? I don't know, Training Day and a bunch of other great movies that Denzel's done, but he always talked about it was fail big. And it wasn't about failure, but it was about taking risks. Swing as big as you can in life. Whatever you want to do, you got to swing. You got to fail as big as you can, because even if you do fail, most of the times you'll succeed, but even if you do fail, you're going to fall forward and you're going to learn something. You're going to keep getting better. You're going to keep moving forward. You're going to keep, you talk about the greatest inventors in the history of our world. You know how many times those people failed? But they were never afraid to fail because they saw that as getting better and getting closer to the solution, right? So and to their end game. But that is my biggest take: huge swings. Most people don't want to do things in life because they're afraid. They're afraid to lose. They're afraid to people laugh at them. You know, they're afraid for people to, like, I've gotten to a point it doesn't bother me what people think about me anymore. Like, I'm gonna say what I think is right. I'm gonna do what I think is right, and if you don't like it, that's on you. You know what I mean? It doesn't bother me, but I think as a young person, a lot of you guys are very sensitive about what other people think about you, and I think a lot of times you guys stunt your growth because you're like, man, this person's gonna make fun of me. Man, these people are gonna crack some jokes about me on social media. It doesn't even matter, brother. Like, I'll tell you straight up, it doesn't even, to me, and I've thought about it throughout the years, it doesn't even faze me anymore. I got people that talk junk about me 24/7 on social media. A handful, 5, 10, 20, 12 people. It doesn't even faze me anymore. I'm going to do what I think is right all the time, but more than anything, that's my biggest advice. Swing as big as you can and don't care. It doesn't matter what other people think about you. I'm telling you, a lot of you guys stunt yourself because you're like, oh, bro, but my classmates are going to make fun of me, or this person's going to make fun, or they're going to think about this about me. Don't even matter. It doesn't even matter what other folks think about you. Just do whatever you fail as big as you can, swing as big as you can, and you'll succeed in life.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll be all. Thank you for answering my questions, and I'm gonna have up next as Shayla.
Well, they still got more, and I think Ariel and Albert wanted to ask some stuff. And
Hello.
look, talking about people making fun of me, Albert makes fun of me every single episode. He's like, dude, I already know what you're gonna say. I already know what you're gonna do. Am I right or am I wrong?
Hello, everyone. My name is Shayla. I'm a senior at Manny Cid Academy, and I'm so grateful to be able to personally interview you. I'd like to start off with the first question. What qualities do you think are necessary to be a good mayor?
Qualities to be a good mayor. Empathetic, right? So what I mean by that is a lot of times we feel as human beings that we know it all, right? Especially young people, right? You guys think that you know it all and your parents talk, but the reality is the most powerful tool for a human being is to put yourself in someone else's shoes and see the world through their eyes, right? So a lot of times we're like, man, that person doesn't know what they're talking about. That person did. And then you realize that it's just the way that they were raised, right? Or the perspective that they had in their life. So empathy is a very important tool for a leader. And I think the greatest leaders in our society are incredibly empathetic. Look, there's a bunch of other ones. Transparency, honesty. That I could tell you, be as honest as you can. You'll never lose. Even if somebody gets mad at you, in the long term, you're always going to win. Because if you're honest, people might not like it at first. They'll be like, man, this person says you know what I mean? They say how it is, or, but I think long term, that's always one of the greatest things. But the main one for me is empathy. I'll be honest with you. That is the most powerful tool you can use because it'll help you. A lot of times when I meet with somebody, I like to do a little bit of research on them. Like if Joseph puts a meeting on my calendar, I'll Google the person and I'll see, where they're from, where their family's from, what their education. And then you realize that certain people think a certain way because of the way they grew up, their experiences. And that's all of us, right? Our experiences is what made us. But I think empathy is by far is the most powerful.
Me too, actually.
Yeah.
What is the most challenging part of being a mayor?
The most and we talked about it a little bit ago. The most challenging part is you got to get used to people not liking you, right? And I think you're never gonna get 100% of the people supporting you in anything you do in life. And at first, it used to bother me. I remember I used to chase. And it's called. There's a saying that says, "Don't seek consensus, mold consensus." If you seek consensus, you'll never reach it, right? If you mold it, if you tell. You'll definitely get there. But one of the toughest things was that for me was getting used to people never liking you. And as a human being, it's tough, right? Walking into a room and you're like, yeah, that person talks bad about me every day. There's nothing I can tell them that'll change their mind. So even all the people that I've come across that might talk bad about me, I've at some point attempted to sit down with them, to talk to them. And then that's when I realized, I go, look, you got to focus on the other 99% that agree with you, right? So if that to me was the switch that took you from being an elected official and then being a leader, right? Being an elected official, anybody can do it. Anybody can get elected. Anybody can get a title. But being a leader, you got to make those decisions, and that's when you flip that switch and you're like, you start doing what's right, based on what you believe and what your experiences are, instead of constantly like looking around and asking everybody else.
Okay, last is, how do you stay motivated while running this city?
Oh, that is a great question, because it's easy to become stagnant, right? And I think that's something that happens to all of us. You plateau at some point. You stop. There's nowhere. People start thinking, the roof is falling in on me. My head's hitting the roof. That there's a saying for that as well. One of the things that I've done. Look, for example, I'm getting my master's degree now. Even though I'm a mayor, I own a restaurant. I've owned other businesses. I've done 1,000 things. I teach now. Like this year alone, I added some things to what I'm doing to make myself better, to keep myself motivated, not only for me personally, but for the people I serve every day. So I'm literally I had a class today. I was in my master's class, and I don't have to do it. I'm the mayor of a city, but I'm doing it because it improves me, and then in turn improves the way that I stay motivated and I help people. Because it opens up my eyes to other things. I'm teaching a class every day for an hour. I don't have to do that. But I do it because it helps me, right? Those are things that keep you motivated, and in turn, it keeps you serving the people that elected you. So that's a great question. But as human beings, we constantly need to keep getting better, because it's like Ariel, Ariel. He could just say, I'm going to do the broadcasting forever. Look, the other day we cut the ribbon for a virtual, you guys seen that virtual studio, the enhanced reality studio at Matter Lakes that people put on the Oculus and stuff. Like, you don't have to do that, but you do it because you have to constantly get better. If not, you reach a point where, and that's when people kind of don't like their jobs, don't want to be there, don't want to work. You see the difference between I took a flight the other day and I saw the difference between flight attendants. You saw one flight attendant that was incredibly motivated, and they were the same age. They were older flight attendants. You saw another one that hated his job so much so that the guy tell you no to everything, and then you would turn around and be like, all right, man, all right, whatever. You ask the other flight attendant, hey, look, can I do this? Can I put the bassinet in here? They're like, of course, And I think that's when you start realizing, when you see people that are unhappy with their jobs, it's because they stop growing. They stop getting better. It's not all about money. Money is important, but I think as human beings, there's a bigger purpose into everything that we do. So, yeah, my motivation is that. So every year I try to reinvent the wheel. Like, we're going to take I know there's going to be some breaking news soon, but we're going to take the podcast to new heights in January. I'm looking forward to that. That helps me, because now it gets me excited every day, which I wake up and I'm like, oh, I'm looking forward to this, which in turn helps the people that I serve every single day.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you for your time. I'm going to pass it to George now.
Got it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is George Garcia. I'm a student at Matter Lakes Academy. My first question for the mayor would be, were you involved in any activities in school? And if so, what lessons did you pick up from it?
I wasn't involved in anything. It was one of the worst mistakes I made growing up, right? Besides playing sports, I should have been involved in 1,000 other things. So one of the things that I always tell kids, I go, take advantage of everything. If it's dual enrollment, if it's an extracurricular club that you're going to learn from, I didn't do it. And it hurt me in the long run, right? I had to, when I graduated at 18, I had to take remedial classes in college to catch up to where I should have been. Where the reality is, those classes I could have taken if I would have studied and paid a little bit more attention, because we all have that potential. I would have been done with before I graduated high school. So no, but I regret it, because I think we have so much more opportunities to get better. So there was no reason for me to do that, but I learned from it as well. So now I take every opportunity to get better I do it. Like when I got elected as mayor, one of the first things I did was go travel the state of Florida, go visit with other elected officials that have been doing this for 30, 40 years, go visit with attorneys, go with city managers, and learn from them. The wisest people in our communities are the ones that learn from mistakes of others, right? So like if you sit down with somebody who's been doing it for 30, 40 years, they have a dozens of stories of mistakes that they've made, and you can learn from them. So that's what I did. But I wish I would have had that same commitment when I was in high school. And then I wouldn't have had to, get my degree at 38 years old. So I literally got my AA at 37, my BA at 38, and now at 39, I'm working on my master's degree. Where I should have done that at 19, 20 years old, right? So, but it's all good.
All right. The next question that I have is, what did you plan on majoring in after graduating high school?
Hey, I wanted to be a marine biologist, but I have a big issue. I get seasick really easy. I have literally like there's nothing that works for me. I think it's Dramamine right? Is Dramamine? Well, yeah. Everybody takes that stuff. I even tried. What was the ones you put on your wrist? That's like a pressure point. Yeah, it's like I tried everything. The patches behind the ear. You should have seen me how I looked. I would take the Dramamine, put the patches behind my ear. But the little bands, none of that stuff worked. The moment I went out, it was over. You got to take me back, or I'm gonna dehydrate from. I couldn't even drink no water. So that's when I realized I got to do something else. So I became enamored with politics because everything we do, like from the gold in that chain, how it got mined, how it got here, who pays the tariffs, to the material of the sweater you have on, like where it came from, why does it have a label, why somebody made those decisions along the way for it to happen that way. So I was like, I would love to be part of a process that you can make a difference and make things better for people. So that's when I became enamored with politics. Was like literally, you go to the store right now, you buy a candy bar, you're paying 7% tax in Dade County, and that's when you start asking those questions, like why am I, where does that money go? And sometimes when you start asking those questions, you realize that you could do a better job at ensuring that those dollars go where they're supposed to go.
Mm-hmm. All right. The third question that I have is, being a mayor, you typically try to make sure everyone's happy, obviously, and no matter what side, it doesn't matter. But how do you balance that out when political beliefs can be so extreme nowadays?
Oh, that's a great question, man. Now you got people that are so ingrained in their thought process that they don't care what you have to say, and you see it now in the politics. So I'll give you an example. There was a school board races here in Florida. There were city council races, and all people cared about. In Florida, is illegal to campaign on being a Republican or Democrat when it comes to nonpartisan local elections. Yeah, when you're talking about federal elections and governor and state house, you run as a Republican or Democrat. But local elections have gotten to the point where you knock on somebody's door and the first question they ask you is like, hey, how are you? You're like, hey, look, I want to talk to you about the trees. It's like, listen, are you a Republican or Democrat? And you're like, what's up? Like, why does that even matter when it comes to like local stuff? Are you a Republican or a Democrat? You're like, and if you say you're a Republican, they're a Republican, like, I got you. But if you say you're a Republican, they're a Democrat, they're like, I ain't got nothing for you. And it's been really hard for people because that's what our society's turned to, right? Is this hyper partisan, hyper divided society where things are so polarized. So I'm fortunate that I own a restaurant, so I break bread with people from all walks of life every day, and B is I know how to. I have a skill set that I can communicate with people on all sides, regardless of party. So I never talk about national elections. So I have a rule: if I can't control it, I'm not gonna even chime in on it. So like, why am I gonna be talking about Donald Trump or Joe Biden when they don't even know me? Like, they've never met me. Like, why am I gonna be fighting my neighbor over, defending people who never care about me? To just be real with you, you know what I mean? And that's a rule that I have for all types of positions. People are like, yo, who you gonna vote for? I'm like, listen, I'm voting for Manny Cid. You know what I mean? I don't, because the moment that it's becoming so divided. But yeah, I avoid not. I'll talk about it. I'll talk about my beliefs and my positions, and I'll get. But I try not to as mayor, because you immediately, people put you in a box, right? So you're like, nah, look, I'll give you an example. Like the parks right now. You have groups of people, some that are for it, some that are against, some that are undecided. But one group of people is like, no, I'm not going to vote for it because it's not the Republican way. Or then you have other people that are like, no, listen, this is not the type of liberal position that we should take. We should do more a social initiative. You know what I mean? It's gotten to a point that every issue has turned into that. But yeah, I'll tell you, that's the best way to do it. Tell people the truth. Be like, listen, man, I've never met Donald Trump. I've never met Joe Biden. I've never met, and these folks have never campaigned. Why am I going to campaign for all these people that'll never care about me personally, right? But realize that you see people fighting with each other, becoming enemies, neighbors, over people that'll never care about them. It's crazy stuff, but whatever, man. It is what it is. But I think your generation, I hope, is a little different, right? Regardless of your beliefs, I think you got to stand tough on your beliefs. You got to defend your beliefs. But at the same time, doesn't mean we're not gangs, right? You know what I mean? Just because you're a Republican, you're in the Republican gang or the Democrat, and that's what Jose Oliva was on here, former Speaker of the House in Florida. He talked about it. He was like, look, man, there's this perspective that people, it's a gang mentality where you're in one party or the other, and you guys got to fight, and you guys got to be enemies. And I'm like, man, this is not cool. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we're all, talk about empathy, right? We're all human beings at the end of the day.
Yeah, I get it. It's like, you know, like, how are you gonna like go and support someone when, like, you know, the other person could be putting out stuff that you believe in, or stuff that you think would be beneficial towards your society, basically.
Yeah, no, it's becoming tough. My biggest fear is that good people and don't want to get involved, right? And good people are like, it's happening here locally where there's a lot of good people that I tell them, I was like, man, you should run for public office. They're like, man, you crazy? Like, there's no chance. So what you get is if you don't get good people running, what's left? Right? People that have ethical challenges, people that have their moral clarity is foggy, who do things that they're not supposed to do, but that happens when you have a hyper polarized society and good people don't want to get involved.
Mm-hmm. All right. My last question is, what's the future of Manny Cid? You have, 2 more years, right? So what's next?
Man, moving Vox Populi to a new studio. Listen, man, politically, I don't know. I love public service. I'm not saying I'm the best at it, but I'm pretty good at it, right? Compared to a lot of the folks in Northwest Dade or in the county. I'm definitely going to run for something in the future, but I'm going to do it, whatever it is. I got to make a decision that can't impact my family, right? So, like, I used to be an aide in the state legislature when my kids were small, and I would find myself driving to Tallahassee dozens of times by myself on a Friday afternoon and driving back to Tallahassee on a Sunday night. And I did that for months and months and months, and I'm not going to sacrifice. So whatever it is, it's not going to be something that'll impact my family. So, but we'll see. We'll see where God leads us. So we got to listen. But good job, man.
For sure. Thank you.
Oh, you're not going to introduce him?
I'm sorry. I'm introducing Ariel now. Sure. So, yeah.
Albert, you're going too or no?
Look at the time. Look how much you've talked. And you think you could still go.
Oh, my God.
So, hello, everyone. My name is Ariel Gomez, and I'm the lead teacher for the... Oh, students are telling me the hair is messed up. We got to fix it.
It's all good. Listen, bro, you get my haircut. Or you get my haircut.
You don't get to talk about hair. You do not get to talk about hair. But no, pretty much, like, we want to thank you for the opportunity to give the kids the option to be here today and to switch things around, because they're always on that side of the screen. Well, not the screen, but, that side of the room. And it's not the same when they're here. They were super nervous. They're like, oh, but we gotta talk. We gotta do this. We gotta do that. And we're like, yeah, that's how you do it. Like, that's how you learn TV production. That's how you learn broadcasting. You gotta do every angle, every position there is in the crew, so that you could really learn, so that you get that 360 experience. That's ultimately what we thrive to do with the program. So thank you for the opportunity. I think the students enjoyed it. I think they feel a lot more ready now if we were to tell them you got to do it again. So that's awesome. I don't know if Mr. Saez, if you could come up here really quick so that they could meet you too. This is my co-worker, Mr. Saez, and we both teach alongside Mr. Perez. So thank you for everything. Thank you for having us, and thank you for doing this. I think it's a great thing for the students, for the school, for the town of Miami Lakes. For, we meet residents out there, and they're like, I've seen you before. I heard of you. I've heard the podcast, and it's pretty cool because it's like your own little 5 minutes of fame almost. But you don't typically get that anywhere else. So the fact that we're able to open this platform to the students, it's pretty interesting and fascinating for them. So thank you for that.
No, and thank you guys. I mean, you guys do the heavy lifting. You guys created this from nothing to what it is today, and thank you to the students. I look forward to this every Wednesday. I'm like, man, I got podcast time, so it's all blocked off, and it's a great way to communicate with our residents. And you're right, there's a lot of people in our community that watch it, that subscribe, that get involved, and get a lot of info. So, but thank both of you guys, for leading this, for starting this off. I remember, like, almost 2 years ago, when the first one was just a couple students that showed up with a cell phone.
I think it was about 4 students, and we had like a tripod, and we're like trying to figure out how to set up a cell phone on the tripod.
Well, now the subscribers know a little more about you now, about their host. So I think that's a great thing as well, that the subscriber know more about you this time.
Oh, but next time we got to ask both of these guys some questions. We got to throw them in there. But yeah, I think you guys did a good job, right? So part of it, the broadcasting side, is not only, like Ariel was saying, it's not only on the back end of the work, but you never know when you're going to get tapped and be like, hey, you gotta come up here and interview. I remember last year we had Micah do an entire interview. So you never know when you got to get ready, and that skill set will help you guys in the future as well. And you guys did a great job, so good job.
Well, Mr. Saez always has a lot of comments on your opening and closing, so we're going to let him close.
Yes.
For today, right?
Let's do it. You got to close. You're closing today.
All right.
Does he need to thank all the sponsors and everybody?
Does he have, actually, yeah?
There's a
Let me have the...
But is he going to use, like,
I'll do
voice and
I'll
everything?
do it Manny Cid's way. Let's give a great shout out to our sponsors. We're powered by Miami Lakes Auto Mall. Thank you to Fred Sanra. Location is 16600 Northwest 57th Avenue, Miami Lakes. Phone number is 305-455-3510. What do you think about this mural, Manny? I'm doing it your way.
No, but I got to respond. I go, no.
What do you think about this mural?
It's just, I've never seen something like this in a mayoral office. This is amazing.
Huge thanks to Grisel Gajano. She built this mural for our podcast. She can see, like, represents the city of Miami, and the city of Miami Lakes, showing all different races and different ethnicities. I think it's a great mural. Our food sponsor today, it's Crusado's Brazilian Steakhouse, located at 7419 Miami Lakes Drive at Miami Lakes. Phone number is 305-363-5247. Thank you, Rufino. I'm pretty sure you tried the food outside, right? Did you?
Listen, man, I heard, I showed up here, and they were like, no, hay carne, Rufino, they let me know, I want to get carne, and I go, Joe,
I tried that steak, and the steak is amazing.
I was like, well, you guys ate it all?
And the sausage was good as well.
Good. Thanks, Rufino.
Our film production team, us, the Miami Lakes Broadcasting. And also a huge thanks to Enrique Santos for providing our broadcast, which is what we're using right now to record the audio here, which works amazing. We use it in the games, and like we use it in sports game with Miami Lakes, and it's working out amazing. And that's pretty much it for today, guys. Thank you for tuning in on Vox Populi. This episode will be released at 6 o'clock. Thank you, guys, and Make sure you tune in on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Thank you, Manny.
Perfect.